Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the movie John Wick Chapter 4. And I overall liked this movie and enjoyed it, though there were problems for it, mainly dealing with pacing and how long certain kind of action scenes go, and how they do a good job. The world is definitely interesting, but they almost need quieter moments to build up the lore and everything and make things make a little bit more sense. And actually dive into deeper kind of things for what's kind of going on here. But I still thought it was enjoyable. I do think that even though there were three main kind of action set pieces, that through pretty much almost 3 hours for this was too long, even though I didn't feel like it was that long. Like, there's certain movies where I'm like, sweet God, my eyes are bleeding, why is this movie this long? It was never to that level, but I was like, this didn't need to be this long. There were certain parts where I was like, man, why are we even doing this kind of stuff? So John and the Bowery King are pretty much been waiting, and we see John pretty much punching some stuff, and we see him getting a new suit from the Bowery King, and he then pretty much goes after the Elder. Even though this is kind of like a new kind of Elder dude, he had evidently killed the other one, the one who sits above the table, and we see him doing this kind of horse chase, him on a black horse, taking out these other people. This dude is talking to the Elder. Well, the Elder's talking to John, and John wants his ring back. He's like, your ring's gone, man, and killing me will just create more problems for you. And John's like, yeah, I don't think so, and pretty much kills him, and then sets off the chain that the High Table then institutes. The Marquis Vincent de Gramont, a senior member of the High Table, is pretty much elevated to, like, above the table to take care of the John Wick problem. And he pretty much is then able to do what he needs to handle this problem. So he pretty much goes to New York, and, well, he goes to New York, and this dude, the Harbinger, who is kind of cool, but it's just like, I need more information on this, pretty much goes in, gets a meeting with Winston, says that he has an hour, and he has to meet with the Marquis. So he then has everybody evacuated from the hotel. Charon decides to go with him, and they pretty much talk about kind of life and death, and like, such is life, and Charon kind of like repeats that back because he kind of views Winston as a friend, and they go with the Marquis. The Marquis is like, you didn't kill John Wick. Yeah, I mean, you shot him, he fell off the roof, but you didn't. So what's going to happen is, they then start kind of talking about their philosophies of, like, Winston does believe in second chances and everything. It's like, but failure must have consequences, my friend. And pretty much then deconsecrates the Continental, blows it up, and kills Charon, and he then has Winston think about why he didn't kill him. Pretty much, like, we do learn that the Marquis is smart enough to understand that would martyr him and others around the area of New York, but with this, he's pretty much bringing him to heal and bringing others around him to heal as well of what's kind of going on. So he's then trying to figure out where John Wick would be next, and trying to figure out any other kind of friends he has, and then we get introduced to Donnie Yen's character of Kane, and goddamn, they introduce a lot of kind of cool characters in this that I would really like other kind of movies to delve into. Like, the great thing that John Wick as a franchise has had is this world really does a good job of setting up this kind of interesting space with these interesting characters that you kind of want to learn more about. Interestingly enough, as this series has gone on, I think they focus too much and go too long on certain kind of action scenes, whereas in the first two movies, the action and the character balanced well enough out. Here we get certain kind of things of action for the sake of action, and new kind of things of them, like, hey, it's almost like a horror movie thing of, let's see how John or this other character will kill this other character going forward. And that's not what you want to do. Good action and good action movies do a good job of balancing what a character would do rather than just wanton violence and wanton action of just like, oh, this is taking too long and it's not really cool or fun anymore. You have to understand the pace. Like, action movies can be horribly paced if the action goes on for too long and you get bored with it. It's like, all right, I get it. Can we kind of move along here? And then there's some that are so quick and you don't even know what happened and you're like, what the fuck? So he enlists Kane, and Kane is in a similar kind of situation where he got out, and the thing is, he gets called in every time, and if he's given a name, he's got to take that name, otherwise they will kill his daughter. And he gets close enough, but not too close, and the Marquis wants him to take him out, but of course, he's friends with John, but he decides, alright, cool, fine. He doesn't like it, but he'll do it. And the thing is, Donnie Yen's character is also blind, kind of similar to his Rogue One character, but they utilize that. The thing is, it's funny because I see them doing bad things with character action, but really good things, like Kane and what he does in certain fight scenes with, like, how he has reacted to his blindness and how he is still a capable and fearsome fighter is amazing. Because then we go to Osaka and Japan, and we see one of the trusted friends, Koji, who runs the Continental with his daughter as the concierge, Akira. And we see that this tracker dude pops up. He's like, okay, yeah. And we see him kind of going through. He's evidently trying to go after John, and he needs like about 50 million or whatnot. And we don't get much more than that. I like his actor. I like the dog. I like kind of how he kind of goes through and tries to handle certain things. But there's like the barest minimum there, and I want them to do more with him and other kind of things. It's like, come on, Kane, definitely kind of cool stuff I want to see with. Tracker, Mr. Nobody, yeah, it's like, damn, he's able to hold his own with stuff, and like hold his own with John Wick through the fight scenes that we get through. It's like, yeah, cool. So we see that John pretty much pops up and talks to Koji to try and figure out how to pretty much effectively take on the High Table. And the thing is, he's like, it was not a smart move to kill the Elder because the Marquis. And then we see one of the cooler kind of action set pieces is the fight in the Osaka Continental. Because the Marquis sends his people there who have suits like John Wick, bulletproof-wise. Now, granted, the thing is, not everybody in this movie has those kind of things. They're elevated few, like the Marquis people, and that affects how John fights and his fighting style as well, which is cool. New information, action-informing character, changing stuff up. Well, we see that Koji's like, no, I'll let you do, like, inspect the Continental, but you give up your guns. And we see that the rest of his people that he employs to defend the Continental are utilizing kind of traditional Japanese weaponry of bows and arrows and katanas as well. But it kind of works within close quarters, and when you understand that the Marquis kind of people have usually bullet Kevlar reinforced suits. And then we see the first kind of action scene as Koji pretty much gets the upper hand. But then we see essentially shock trooper forces, which are done up in body armor that is reminiscent of like samurai ninja kind of armor. That is really fucking cool. And then they're pretty much going through. Kane had tried to talk Koji out of doing this as well, but he couldn't. And they kind of go through. We get all these different kind of things. We get these sumo guys that are part of Koji's retinue, and they're kind of bulletproof kimonos. Koji's going through and doing some kind of awesome stuff going through. Akira is pretty much pissed off because the John Wick's there and that this is going to pretty much fuck over her father. But then they start working together, taking on the guys. We see John Wick going through, usually taking people out through whatever head kind of apparatus that they can do with, since they've got like the masks and kind of the eye visors as well, it really changes up how his style is affected. And Akira, she's interesting as well. Like, there's enough there. There's potential there. She wants to do right by her father. We see her, and she's like, yeah, you have to have dinner with your daughter because she thinks you work too hard. And Koji loves his daughter as well. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'm good to see my daughter then. And it's kind of cool and kind of sweet. There's little kind of character moments, and I've seen her going through and her kind of like fighting attire and everything, and how her fighting style is, because we get character through action. Now, granted, this goes on a while, but I think that this is the best action set piece of the movie. And if it had just been this, we would have worked out pretty well. So, they're pretty much going through the Continental. We see that Akira gets wounded as John is pretty much starting to take out some of the Marquis people, but he tries to like help her out, but we see Koji kind of pop up, and Koji's like, listen, go out the way you came. And John's like, I'm not leaving you to do this stuff. He's like, don't you besmirch my gift pretty much to you. Don't get out. As Koji pretty much is trying to take care of his daughter, and John goes out, and we see him kind of busting through these other kind of places. Before this, though, we'd also seen how King fights, and he's just sitting at first, and then the Marquis kind of like head kind of dude is like, aren't you gonna do something? And then he starts fighting Koji's forces. He takes out doorbell motion sensors and puts them around places, and then is able to shoot and take out these people, utilizing that to echolocate where they're at and where to get them at. It was fucking amazing. Again, character informing how an action set piece goes. It's like, when that is on point, and when they're working that out well, holy fucking shit. That's the best case scenario in a John Wick movie. You're like, fuck yeah. And it usually doesn't go on for too long. It's like, okay, cool. He takes these people out, and he then goes on towards John. Now, granted, John takes a while in this one place, going a while, pretty much taking out suited Marquis people and also the Black Ops people as well, utilizing nunchucks pretty well as well. Granted, it still goes on a little bit long, but it's cool to kind of see him utilize the nunchucks to take out people, and it was just awesome. Then we get to him fighting Kane, and how these are two masters, and even though Kane is blind, he is a threat, a big threat, and they don't want to fight each other, but of course John recognizes that he's needing to take out the high table to pretty much get out of this situation, because they're assholes. Because we got the crime family, all this kind of escalation because of people who think that they can do what they want, institute their rules, and that they can change those rules at any kind of moment's kind of notice. Because we see that happen because of the son killing the dog in the first movie, D'Antonio, then utilizing that, oh, you got out, but you came back in to do this vengeance thing, so I want you to kill my sister, and then I'm just going to pin it all on you and kill you and get rid of it, ha 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 ha. And it's like, nah. Like, Winston knew that he was fucking doing this kind of shit, and he should have kicked him out. John probably was just like, fuck this kind of system, and keeps kind of going in this. We do understand that there are consequences here. So we see them going through, doing some kind of cool stuff, and at a pretty good limit. We see that Kane is able to have like a sword in his cane as well, and utilizing weaponry as well, but John is able to kind of get out because the tracker, no, is it the tracker dude? He also pops up kind of later, because John's able to kind of get away. Let's see. Yeah, they are interrupted by Tracker, and we see that Tracker then finds him later on, helping him out with a Marquis dude, and be like, listen, I need you to stay alive because he needs the money. And then we kind of have this three-way, almost the good, the bad, and the ugly kind of thing, with John wanting to take out the high table, by pretty much killing his way out, Kane serving his way out, and Tracker trying to buy his way out. Now that is explicitly stated in Berlin when we get to a certain kind of place. So we see that Kane tries to figure out where John is and fights Koji and kills him, and says that he'll be seeing Akira later, because Koji was still friends with Kane as well. He's like, don't do this. He's like, he has to do it for his daughter, and Koji's fighting for his daughter as well. But Kane doesn't kill Akira. He's like, I'll see you later, because she leaves and she's pretty much need to heal herself. And then she pretty much tells John to kill Kane, and he's like, I'll deal with it. He doesn't explicitly state that he'll do it, but he says he'll deal with it. So John then goes back to New York and meets with Winston, learns about Charon being killed, and is like, alright, the way to get out of this, try and challenge the Marquis to single combat, a duel. Because he's still got the bounty on his head, everything like that. So he's like, alright, but the only way to do that, he would have to be in a crime family in order to issue that kind of challenge, so he has to go repair his bonds with, let's see, the Ruska Roma. And he pretty much gets there. Tracker pretty much makes a deal with the Marquis to take him out for like 35 and then a matching contribution. They have a little scene where the Marquis stabs him in the hand. He's like, listen, you can tell a lot about a man. If you take the knife out, that's more for yourself. If you're dedicated to the cause, you'll just take your hand out of the knife. And he takes his hand out of the knife because he's dedicated to getting the money and everything. And he, of course, then gets pretty much put on the same deal as Kane, like life for a life, because he tells them that John's in Berlin at this crime family. He then learns from this, he gets shot by this father dude. He's trying to look for Uncle Peter, and he learns that he's dead and that this killer dude killed him because John was part of their family. And Katya's like, why don't I just kill you? And I was like, why don't I kill him? You let me back in. I challenge the Marquis to a duel, and I kill him. She's like, all right, kill him. Find me proof. Then we go, and he goes there. We see that Kane and Tracker are pretty much there, as well as this killer dude is this giant kind of dude with like gold teeth, and he does this kind of like card game thing, which was really kind of stupid. It's like, oh, let's see who will win. And of course, he cheats in his favor. John throws a card his way. Kane is taking out these guys, throws a fucking flash bang at him. At one point, it's like, lights out, assholes. That was like one of the best lines. I was like, fuck yeah. And then they kind of just fuck around for a little bit as John chases this giant motherfucker around and kills some other people while people are just dancing at the club. Like, I don't mind them not giving a crap that, like, assassination shit's going on. And it would kind of make sense for this world if, like, there are this many assassins doing this much assassination kind of stuff. But they kind of just pull out of one kind of weird spot. And I don't mind John having to take a lot. But the thing is, they kind of amp it to a level where before John would take a lot of, not a lot of damage, but he was kind of John McClane-ish. Here he falls down a lot of shit and gets kind of hit a lot, but you don't really see him damaged as much, or it really is affecting him as much. Now, granted, he has gone through 3 gauntlets already and keeps going through more, so I can understand that he has more endurance of getting the holy shit beaten out of him. This just goes on for too long. It's like he chases the dude into the kind of place, and then he kind of loses track of him and gets like knocked down underneath, has to fight some other kind of guys and just like fucking using hatchets and shit. Then the dude kind of comes down and is like, you're unlucky. And then we see John turn the kind of tactics on him and it's like beating the shit out of him. And then he kind of like goes back up top, and then he kind of like gets knocked down and fucking falls down a thing and pretty much like cracks his neck, I guess. And John like removes a tooth and gives it to Katya. It just takes too fucking long and doesn't do anything worthy enough to for character understanding of the action or any kind of cool enough action to get through it for at least me. If you enjoyed this part, more power to you. I just thought it went on a little too long and was just kind of weird. Like, it needed to be streamlined more and dealt with if you're gonna do kind of how it worked out. It just feels like somebody's like, we need to get him into this family, and then was like, let's expand this out to a giant kind of action set piece. It's like one of the pillars of the movie before we get to the last action set piece in Paris. And it's just like, you really didn't need this. Like, it doesn't really accomplish much except to just pad out shit. So, Katya then does this kind of weird thing. Now, they like bring him back in, so John is able to issue his challenge through Winston as the second, and Winston's able to pretty much massage his ego enough to actually accept the whole kind of thing. And Winston, of course, offers his terms: reinstatement, continental rebuilt with the high table funds and everything like that. John, of course, removed from any and all consideration of the high table. He's out for good. All their business be done. Yeah, okay. And the Marquis like, all right, cool. Like, he hates this kind of old way, kind of stuff. There should be new rules and everything like that. But of course, he only means rules that favor him. And the thing is, John's back into the family, but we see him and Katya do this kind of like mark thing. But wouldn't you think that she had already done the mark thing? Now, granted, if it's like a special case scenario of reinstating someone in, and you need someone to actually do that, makes sense, but it's not adequately explained. It's like, alright, cool. Alright. So he's back in. And we are now pretty much taken to Paris to understand the parameters of the duel, which doesn't make much sense because it's not really explained. It's just put there, and they're like flipping cards. Now, granted, challenge deals with certain kind of things as well, and it's like, all right, let's kind of see where this kind of goes. And we get down to pretty much doing a sunrise at, let's see here, the Sacre Coeur and dueling pistols. And of course, Winston will be executed if John doesn't appear on time, and that the proxy pretty much, John's the proxy for the crime family, and Kane is pretty much going to be the one that goes in the Marquis' place. And the thing is, it's like, alright, and then he's still able to like pretty much increase the bounty, tells the tracker dude to do it for 40, and we get this giant fucking extended action scene. Not action scene, just action set piece. Because we see the Bowery King arrive, he's expanding out, he's got stuff in Paris, and he gives John his suit, this kind of awesome pistol, and then we get this whole thing. We get certain kind of music covers by other kind of bands. We get a Painted Black kind of cover, which is nice, but it's like they just put him in random kind of spots where John's fighting these guys in the place. We see these bounty hunter dudes get these like dragon flame kind of ammo things, and at first it's like, wow, it's been a while, and it's utilized to get past the Kevlar suits. But we don't really see it until later on. I'm like, oh, they didn't forget about it, and they didn't. And it utilizes one of the best kind of action set pieces that we see in Paris. So we at first do all this kind of stuff where he's like doing cars and everything like that, and it's just like, oh, all right. It again, nothing much and nothing as good that we've seen in like previous movies. So it's like, all right. He does this whole kind of Arc de Triomphe one where they're like fighting with all these kind of cars, and it's just, it goes on for too long and kind of starts doing the same kind of stuff over and over again, and the tracker kind of dude kind of helps him out, but kind of is waiting for his bounty to kind of go up, be higher, because it was like 26, but then he gets the Marquis to be a dumbass and pretty much ups it to 40, and he's like so pissed he like smashes his phone and has to use an actual rotary phone later on. And we at first see that this Marquis dude should have died like so many times before, but John's able to kind of get out. And then he gets to this kind of building where he gets one of the Dragon Round kind of assault rifles, and it just is amazing because it goes from this one camera perspective to top down and going through these rooms and how the rounds kind of like go against other people and blow them out, and how John's able to kind of navigate these kind of like puzzle death kill rooms and taking out these people just works very well. And the tracker dude almost kind of gets him, but the thing is, his dog is in trouble, and John decides to shoot the Marquis dude. And you'd think he died, but he didn't, and saved the dog. This, of course, changes the tracker dude's kind of view on John. Now, granted, he's had some kind of good kills throughout this movie as well, but he kind of lets him go. And then we see John pretty much getting closer to the church, but then we get this whole kind of stair scene. At first, you think it's the last gauntlet, but he gets up to the top and gets knocked back down. And it's like, oh god, we do this again. Kane, of course, is like, yeah, we got to get up there. And they're fighting all these guys, and they, of course, are getting through all this kind of stuff. Tracker helps out as well, and Tracker kills, of course, the dude. He's like, you tried to kill my dog, and then shoots him in the head. So John and Kane then get up to the top, and the thing is, I would expand upon more of kind of like the better kind of kills, but there weren't really much. Mainly the utilization of certain kind of things like the nunchucks, or certain kind of uses of kind of like the hatchets or the dragon rounds. But other than that, they don't really get much ones. Kane uses a pencil on one guy. It's not like how each one was like kind of more carefully done in like John Wick 1, John Wick 2, even to a certain extent 3. So here we get up, he gets there, Winston's like, alright, they get the dueling pistols, and they're actually pretty cool. And they pretty much go 30 paces, they shoot at each other, they wing each other. They walk closer to 20 paces, they pretty much get each other kind of closer now. And then the thing is, they get to 10 paces, and John, that's where he kind of pulls out his kind of last card. Kane shoots at him and hits him in the gut, and he's on the ground. The Marquis, of course, decides to utilize his stupidity and say that he claims the coup de grace and says that he releases Kane. And it's funny because it's like, yeah, alright. And then Winston's like, you absolute dumbass. Well, you absolute asshole. John never fired. And then, of course, Kane is released. John shoots him once in the head, dead. And, of course, John is now free. Kane is now free. Everything works out. And you're like, wait a minute. Shouldn't Kane be killed? No, because the Marquis released him from his service. Winston will be, of course, reinstated and have everything that he needs. And then Winston was remarking about how beautiful the sunrise was, and then John's like, can you take me home? It's like, of course. And then John goes to sit down, and we see that he falls over from his wounds. Now, we end the movie and we see that the Bowery King and Winston were like, I never thought we'd see this, because they were talking about stuff of putting on their graves. Winston put care on for friend, because that's what he was. The Bowery King once long lived the king. John wanted loving husband, and we see that he's put with his wife, who was loving wife, and him loving husband. Never thought we'd see this. And they kind of walk up, and Winston says, farewell, my son, to John. Now, I don't believe that John is dead. I believe that John Wick, as who he was in that killing, is done. But we'll see potentially if John is alive. Because there was supposed to be a John Wick 5 that they were going to do back-to-back. And I don't know how like the changes affected that. So we'll see. I think, in my opinion, I believe that John Wick's assassin persona, what he has built up, Baba Yaga, is dead. But I don't believe that the person of John is dead. I think he's alive and doing other kind of stuff and is actually free. That's my interpretation. We'll see what happens if any other kind of movies come out and what's changed with that. Do I care if I'm wrong? If I'm wrong, that's fine. He's dead. It sucks, but I think it is a good death if it's the death that we'll get for that. It's like, yeah, he showed the high table what for. He took it to him, even on their own rules, and told him to fuck off, and won. Like, death doesn't take that from him. He got out, and he beat them. Yeah. And then we get an after-credit scene completely at the end where we see that Kane is trying to go to his daughter, but we then see Akira in the crowd, and she pulls out a knife, and that's where it ends. So we'll see if that does anything, or if that'll lead to any kind of spin-offs or whatnot. So we do know that John Wick will appear in the spin-off Ballerina, so we'll have to see how that kind of works out. Overall, the thing is, I think John Wick was built as a one-movie kind of thing that actually worked out to be 2 movies pretty well, and then they kept kind of going, but they didn't know how to balance everything well enough. Whereas in certain cases, the action went out more, and they actually did need lore and plot and actual kind of development to get that world building a little bit more meshed and to actually work better with the action as well. I heard that like it was closer to like 4 hours or whatnot before they edited it down to pretty much 3. It's like, goddamn. Now granted, I'm a lore and world building junkie. If it's done well enough and executed well, I would take that. This, I was just like, it's too long. Now granted, not to the point where I'd be like, fuck, it's Zack Snyder's Justice League. That was entirely too long. My eyes were bleeding, and I'm like, motherfuck this. This movie's too long. This, I still say it's too long, but it's not to the threshold of like I'm beating my head against the wall for it to be done. It's stretched too much. There's too many long action scenes that could have been shortened or taken out entirely or reworked to make it actually fit with what would be going on with the characters and what's going and what their motivations are. John Wick's kind of plan for the high table and everything like that, we kind of needed a little bit more from that, because the first one worked so well of this asshole killed the dog that his grieving wife gave him. That's clear and simple enough that it carries and goes through, and that's what his objective is. More it gets to the consequences of what goes on with that, and it's like, okay, what's his true objective to completely get free of it? It's like, okay, we needed a little bit more time with that and a little bit more time understanding that from John's perspective as well, and how he wanted to accomplish that and get out of that. Now, do I think this is a horrible movie? No. Do I think it could have been a lot better? Yes. Did I still have fun and enjoy it? Yes. If you're a fan of John Wick, would I recommend it? Yes. I actually got a matinee, and it was like $8. I was like, yeah, baby. That worked out well. So if you want to go see it in the movie theaters and you're a fan of John Wick, I think you'd be comfortable with it. Otherwise, if you want an action movie and need a longer action movie, you could wait for it to be out on, like, movie channels, streaming services, or whatnot, or actually for it to just come out on Blu-ray and get it. I'm definitely going to get it because I like this action franchise. Even though it's gone on and it's gotten some problems, we could see them potentially rectified in any kind of spin-off ones or series or whatnot, because I do know that they're doing the ballerina spin-off, they're doing the Continental story. We'll kind of see what kind of works out with that. So, those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.